Yeah, the good part about what I do is I get to go into offices and see the opticians working with clients while I'm doing my inventory, and then I spend time with the opticians. But it's amazing to me how you see opticians and you see salespeople. And I myself, being an optician, I try to help the optician that I see are salespeople to kind of know maybe you should word it this way or you should do this differently, but try to do it in a nice manner because some people take it kind of offensive when you're trying to tell them how to fit a frame or you need to take a particular measurement. So trying to do that and have a smile on your face and not be
Right.
too pushy can sometimes be a little hard. And I was actually just in an office this last week in Kennewick, and the young lady, when I saw her 3 months ago, she's a newer optician. She asked me to help adjust a pair of glasses that she was dispensing. They were a pair of Maui Jims, and she didn't know how to do the nose pad. They were one of the drill mounts.
Right.
So I helped her adjust those. And to me, it's neat that having my background going out and what I do, that I can work with these newer opticians and help them to learn some of these skills. And then also the educational part in letting them know about our Oregon has convention every year in the classes that we offer. So that is something that this last year when we had convention, I had two different clients that drove over 5 hours. One was from one part of Washington, the other one was from another part of Oregon, just to come to convention because of the great classes we were offering. And to me, that's so exciting to see that they're wanting to get the knowledge. And two of the girls that drove 5 hours were coming to take the ABO review. We've had United Optician Association sponsoring the ABO review. And we have, I'd say, about 10 to 12 people the last 3 years attending every year. And these two ladies drove down the 5 hour drive just to take the ABO review. And they're very excited about taking this test and getting certified. And to me, that's just a testament to what I do and how much I love this profession is getting to see the people that are just regular salespeople now
Right.
becoming opticians and caring about what they're doing and having pride in it.
Anyone hungry to learn is already, they're seeing beyond what they've done
Yes. Yeah.
to a plateau, what they want to learn, how they want to learn things, where they want to go with that. To get back to the education component with opticians, it's critical.
Yeah.
And I think at all different levels, when you begin to strike that chord, they're going to tell other opticians, which is what's happening when you got involved,
Yep.
because it begins to snowball in a way where, you know, opticians see some of the same things that you and I were talking about, where, somebody is not engaged, they're taking an order. And that can be challenging. A lot of excuses and a lot of reasons why those situations exist, but at the end of the day, there's questions that need to be asked in a consultative way, and any way that we can begin to teach that, that's the best way, in my opinion, for opticians to push their value going forward.
Yeah.
Uh,
Just asking a few questions, seeing what your patient needs can, snowball into from one pair to three or four pairs.
exactly.
And, down the road, the doctors are going to be a lot more happy with you with all the income you're bringing in. Plus, that patient, when they come back for their exam next year, they're going to say to the doctor, hey, I got computer glasses last year and they work so well. Can I get a prescription for computer glasses again? So it's also bringing them back into the office, wanting more product and filling their needs. So everybody works on a computer. So, most people, even younger people,
Or your
find
phone, right? Exactly.
right getting glasses that either have filters for their computers or have their prescription with the filters, with the AR coatings. All of that makes a big difference.
It does.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the digital lens technology that has allowed for the compensations for those various differences is kind of a game changer. It can empower, your, you know, opticians that want to go down that road,
Yep.
but it can also empower a discussion. And then it's really, you know, you're back to where opticians, I think, like to be, where they want to be educators. They often don't want to be referred to as a salesperson. But you and I talked about that. It's not uncommon to come across somebody who is below the age of 40, or I do. I make a habit of having a conversation with them and ask them about their experience. And those that have ordered glasses, it's not uncommon for them to refer to the optician in the experience as the frame rep. Now, from a wholesale standpoint, I'm not going to go explain that to somebody who's working behind a counter, but I found it revealing. There's a perception there, and so while we have a little bit of an uphill climb, now is a perfect window to explain what opticians do, how they're engaged, how they're consulting your clarity in your life.
Yeah. And I think that the opticians, if they do take that time and work with the client and let them know the difference of the lenses and the frame materials, they're going to retain those patients. The patients that buy the ones online, most of them aren't going to be buying them online a second or third time. And I've actually worked for offices where we would have people come in and say, on my last pair I got online, I couldn't see through them. Or they'll bring them in right after they get them and you'll verify them and the prescription's wrong. And they're like, I thought there was something wrong with them. And, that's the thing. And people, because if they go into an office and the optician is too busy to help them or doesn't take the time, I think those are the clients that are going to be more apt to go online and look to buy glasses, because they figure I'm going to get that same service and I get to pick out what I want. I don't have to put up with that person maybe not being so nice to me or not caring about me, versus online. It's a whole different experience. They're getting control how the experience goes versus when they're in the office. So I think that leads back to opticians caring about being opticians versus salespeople.
Well, last month I was talking to an optician who we were talking about a social media group that she's a part of that's very large, and she had some engagement with people about how do you buy glasses, and there were more than a few that said they exclusively buy online. And exclusively says something. I'm not gonna go too far down an assumption road, but for somebody who's 10 or even 20 years younger than you or I, for them to say exclusively, they obviously had a bad experience. I mean,
Yep.
it's if their only way that they're ever going to get glasses, whether they work or don't, online, that means that they probably had a bad experience. They probably went in to talk to somebody about it, and that experience was probably worse.
Yep. Yeah.
And again, not okay. I'm not justifying it. But when you begin to read between the lines, and the optician is now the frame rep, and and you've got young people saying, I exclusively order online, it's not about proving your value. Just deliver your value daily. And you kind of hit on it earlier. You talked about wanting to be there. Talk about that. I mean, I know it sounds kind of simple, but how do you define that? Or how would you, if you're hiring somebody, how would you notice that? Or what do you look for?
Well, back when I used to hire opticians, I actually had a test, and I would ask them, what's a base curve? What's a sag height? What's an OC? Right. And just little triggers to see what they knew, because they would come in and honestly, you would hire somebody that came from back when I started, we had an optometry program. And I would hire opticians right out of that optometry program, and they would know all the basics, but they couldn't fit a decent pair of glasses. They didn't have the drive to be an optician. They had all the knowledge, but they didn't have that personality. It takes a certain person to take the time and want to work with you with a pair of glasses. Right. And, that's why I would have people come in and they say they have 5 years experience or 10 years. And you'd give them a little test on what they knew, and they couldn't fill out half of it.
Well, and it depends on where those years were, but you're right.
Right. Yeah.
And again, that's not always the building or the name that was on the front of it. It's the people.
Yeah. You want somebody who they're going to tell their friends, oh, she was so great, go back. And I remember one office that I used to work at, I would have patients come in all the time asking for me, saying, so said, go ask for Sheri.
Right.
And to me, it was exciting to have that person stand at the front desk asking for me. And it was also exciting for me to meet that new person and see what their needs were and to fill their needs. And
Right.
as far as being an optician over the years, to me, it's exciting because it's like a challenge. You see the prescription, you pick out the frames, and I like to have the patient sit down. I pull the frames, I tell them, this one would fit because this reason or that reason. And it's always funny because the first frame you pick is normally the frame they go with.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And, it's funny. My first 5 years were lab. So the consultative stuff, and I used to joke about it on a busy Saturday. It's like, all the consultative stuff I'm having is with the same three people. Yours is with different ones, and they're like, well, yeah, but we're nice. And I go, oh, okay, you got that. There's a winner there. But you do learn a heck of a lot more from body language, eye to eye contact, when you're talking face to face with the patient than as opposed to when you're back running the edge of the day.
Yeah.
There's high merit in both. If I could carve a path, I believe people should be exposed immediately to the lab part. Obviously, reading, neutralization, all that stuff. I believe in that. But it's a very different world when you begin the consultative part of being an optician. Not uncommon for me to click onto opticians on Facebook and see how, well, remember when I was a lowly frame stylist and look what I am now? And that gets me going. It's like, there's no lowly frame stylist. You're framing the eye. Just because it's what you did initially, just because it may have been a little easier to get through and learn, don't downplay selling a remake. One of the things we had talked about was the verification work potential of putting skilled opticians to work at a computer to verify orders that are fundamentally going to be wrong. Part of an optician's work is to not sell a remake.
Yeah, I can remember having opticians that supposedly were skilled, and then they would order a pair of glasses, and you would look at the order and you're like, you just put that -7 in that 58 eye size, and it's huge square frame, and you're trying to explain to the optician, do you realize they're going to come out looking like Coke bottles? And trying to explain that to them, and they're like, oh really? And just little things like that a lot of the opticians aren't taught those type of things. They're just taught, pick out a frame, order a set of lenses. And a lot of times they don't even know the difference in the coatings or what the coatings are for. So, that's a whole nother ball game. Is anymore, there's so many specialty lenses. Back in the day when I did glasses, we used to have lenses that were designed for macular degeneration patients. And, a lot of people don't even know those type of things exist. And nowadays they have the lenses for like Parkinson patients. They have the FL40 ones for the brain injury patients.
Right.
Yeah. So, just knowing those type of things, which a lot of opticians aren't even familiar with that type of stuff. And that's where I like the education. I'll go to Vision Expo, or I go to our yearly conventions here in Oregon to learn those type of things. And out in the field, when I go to offices, I'll explain, hey, we're having a convention come up. And I have a lot of opticians say, oh, I never go to those. Oh, I don't need any training.
One of the things I was going to contribute is that we mentioned the traumatic brain injury tint.
Yeah.
And there's actually, I think Canada has it now. I know it's available in Europe. There's an anti-seizure lens that,
Oh my.
Yeah, and I was unaware of this at all until last year. I had no idea there was a product even available. Well, it's not available here, but there are opticians here trying to mimic the tint.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make that claim. But I don't know how long that will take to get through, but I believe that it was going to be available in Canada soon. Canada seems to get stuff from Europe a little faster than we do.
Yeah, as far as the contact lens, they also, from what I was reading, they're actually trying to put little microchips in them. And those are not approved yet, but that's something they're working on. But they have contact lens for night vision. which I didn't realize that. And I
Wow.
have dry eyes, so I'm actually thinking about looking into the contacts for the dry eyes. But they have contacts that they'll have medication in them, which,
The,
if you don't go online and look these
right.
things up or go to your education, you
Right.
don't find these things out. And,
Correct.
that's something that I try to press to these opticians. You need to get out there and attend these to find out the information. And
Well,
it just keeps you a better salesperson the more knowledge you have.
well, and that leads me to a question. You mentioned something about the three-track education uh, system now. What was
Yeah.
it before? And what is it
The
now?
last, I'd say, eight
And
to
this is in
10 years.
Oregon? This is in
Yes, here in
Oregon, right?
Oregon, our
Okay.
association, we would go to an event and you'd sit in one room, have classes all day, and then you would have vendors. And I took over chair position about 3 years ago, and now we offer three tracks of classes. Two will be educational, and one will be the ABO review. And actually, this year, I'm talking to our education person. We just talked a couple weeks ago. We want to offer the NCLE review this year instead of the ABO.
Oh,
So
good.
there's people out there that want to get the NCLE,
Right.
but there is
Right.
no training for that. So since we've done the ABO several times, we're talking about doing the NCLE this time. But
That
we're
makes
trying
sense.
to offer, instead of having 8 to 10 classes at convention, we're having 16 to 23. So
Wow.
it gives you a chance to decide what classes you want versus just sit in a room all day and get credits and you're attending something you really don't want to be there for.
It's obviously you have a fair amount in your state that are in CLE and ABOC, but your state is not a certified or a licensed state.
No, we have over 560 opticians who are national certified here in Oregon.
That's a lot.
Yes, the sad thing is we only have about 100 of them show up to convention because a lot of them get their education from
Right.
books, from
Right.
magazines, they get it online,
Right.
and they don't see the value in coming out and networking with other people, seeing the new frames that are out,
Right.
having that camaraderie with your coworkers or people in the field. They don't see the value in that.
Well,
And that's
and
something we're trying to educate them. It's not just to come out to get your credits, but it's also to come out and thank those vendors that come in and see you, that are there every 8 to 12 weeks. You're coming out supporting them also. So that is something that we're trying to educate the opticians on. It's more than just education, it's a full rounded event.
you know, education is huge. It is needed. All of us stand on it, and all of us want it going forward. Um, the levels of how that gets embraced with those that are older than you or I versus those that are younger, how they were presented. I never knew about it in high school.
Yeah.
Technician work.
No,
Um,
no. My senior of high school, a coworker said, "Hey, are you interested in a different job?" And I'm like, "Okay." And that's how she introduced me to American Optical. I
right.
never thought 50 years later, that I would be still in the field, and I enjoy the field. I
Right.
actually took classes because we used to have optical classes when I started the business, and I took
Right.
classes in the evening and weekends to help get my ABO. And then years later worked for an ophthalmologist, and I just studied on the job and went in and got my COA, and I keep both of them up. I've just actually this last year I've renewed both of them. So, and I enjoy going to like Vision Expo, and going to Jacopo because you get to see the newest material. You get to talk to the speakers that are out there that know the newest in inventions. And sometimes the classes may be a little boring, speakers may be kind of, but
Right.
you're out there and you're actually helping yourself to better yourself. And to me, that's part of being a great optician.
Well, no question about it. And what an optician does, how the interaction takes place, is going to be changing as we move forward. We know that. We can see it happening right now.
Yep.
Um, talk about, you know, technologies that have worked and helped our field that you've seen. We talked about a few that were nightmares. Talk about it within the industry. You talked about tech work and then you talked about optician work. And
Yeah.
while they have some things that blend and go really well together, I don't think it's bad to have that kind of come together at a bigger level. But you know, you talked about having 100 some people at your convention. I think that's great.
Yeah.
When you compare it to the 500 or 600, of course that stinks. But at the end of the day, that many of them care.
Yeah.
And when you begin introducing and showing some more interesting things, I'm a big fan of showing how to replace a hidden hinge. That may not be that important, but with a lot of the frame styles today, single, double and triple barrel hinges are not as uncommon, and they
Yeah.
do
And
break.
how to put them together, how to work with
Right.
them.
How do you
A
get the
screw
hot
comes
fingers
out,
and
how to
pop
put
that
them back
baby out,
together.
or however that'd be cool stuff to show people.
Yeah.
And again, these were things that we did all the time in 1989, but with the way the industry changes and the in and out of the drill mounts, and now the big clunky plastics, I mean, it has changed. But talk about some good and bad tech, because I'm kind of
Well,
curious what
back
you
when
have
I
to
first
say.
started in the business, glass was what was available. You couldn't even get plastic, and then plastic slowly started coming out. And plastic back in the day, you could scratch it with your fingernail; it was so soft. And then when they started coming out with anti-glare coatings, that was a whole nightmare. The
Right. Oh,
coatings,
it was.
people would leave them in the window of their car, or just ladies using hairspray, things like that. The coatings would start to peel. And back in the day, we used to, when the patient come in and complain about their AR coming off, take it in the back room and just take a piece of tape and just peel the coating off, and there it's nice and clear again. Just like
Well,
high index lenses, back in the day, we didn't have anything like that to offer people. You just try
no,
to pick a small round frame and pray for the best. Tell the lab to do a bevel on it, or
right.
yeah, and just hope it would turn out. But now there's so much. I actually attended a class a couple years ago, a new high index lens that's only available with one lab here in Oregon. I don't know if it's United States, but I know here in Oregon, and it was amazing how thin that lens was.
Really.
Yeah, and from what they were telling us, optics are supposed to be great. I honestly don't work with that lens, so I couldn't, testify to that. But I have actually in the last year gotten a couple lenses that were accommodative lenses. I have a pair of progressive that are accommodative lens and a progressive, and it's amazing. You put them on, and everything's just nice and sharp. You
Right.
don't have any of that adjusting, like some progressives. Honestly, I don't really. I think I may own one pair of, I'm not going to say the brand, but I would never sell them to somebody. But the ones I have, I can
Right.
put one pair on versus another because I have about 25 pairs at home.
Right. Well, and I do that too. I'll float
But
around with,
yeah, great
what I like
optics
or
in
what
them.
I don't,
Yeah.
and definitely bend some rules that we ought not to. I was a hard customer to please until digital product began to arrive.
Yep.
Well, that was my experience as somebody who is very picky. And a lot of us that are nearsighted for a lot of years can wing it in the mid and near.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm late in hyperope, so
Yeah, so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that changes your choices though.
It does.
Actually, yeah, you've seen a lot of good developments
Yeah.
in lens technology to help you, which is spectacular.
Yeah.
Even if that's translated to a social media communication, I think that that's important information to be translated to a patient.
Yeah.
Which you described as something that was in your hand when you left the practice in the 80s and 90s. But really, that should be information that goes back and forth because if somebody asks somebody, hey, how did your eye exam go? You know, what percentage are going to remember? Okay, if somebody does say, I'm a late and hyper,
Yeah.
oh my God, are you okay? Making the value really, really clear. Because
Yeah.
there is the collateral to talk about that optician who is order taking versus consulting. The other side of that is after an experience like that or two as a patient, why aren't you getting your PD and your prescription going out the door?
Yeah.
And, hopefully the work that we're doing with the states and in my state, we're at the beginnings of forging legislation to become certified. But it also extend an olive branch to those that have been practicing here 25 plus years. We're not here to come and mess your hair up. We're here to say, come be with us.
Yeah.
We got CEs coming. We're not here to do anything to you about that. We want to hear your contribution. Do we want to hear a bad story from 30 years ago? No, we don't. We want to talk about now going forward.
Yeah.
And we want to show you what is happening now going forward. And that's exciting. I think that's probably the coolest thing that we're all getting to do here in PA. And, who knows, maybe other places will be able to follow online because once you do have certification in place at a state level, then if you are going to work anywhere, even if it's part-time, because that's the other thing, we have a whole bunch of people that are our age that, don't necessarily want to sit at home.
Yeah.
They'd love to go dispense, glasses or help people get the right frames or whatever, talk to them, be an optician. There's a lot of people that would enjoy
Oh
that,
yeah, there's a lot of older opticians because they enjoy the profession.
Right,
They're some of them, don't need the money. They're just out because
right.
they like working with the clients, and it's something to do with their day versus sitting home and drinking a glass of wine.
Exactly. You really bring up a good point. It keeps them engaged.
Yeah.
Let's face it, there's a new lens, there's a new approach. There's dry eye, there's myopia management, there's techniques at work. When you begin to understand what was going on with the lack of myopia management, every single one of us knows somebody who jumped from 4s to 12s. It's like, what the heck happened there, Get a better grip on that or to slow that down in any way. I can totally understand wanting to be involved. The other thing is driving lenses that you mentioned earlier. Certainly makes life a lot easier for people that are our age.
Mm-hmm.
That don't necessarily want to drive dawn dusk wet road, but are so much easier to do with those super bright lights now.
Yeah.
The lenses that are available for you are tremendous.
Yeah.
They really are. Not only digital backside, but proper AR. You know, most of them have some type of embedded technology that is just awesome.
For myopia, the new Stellus lens that's out.
Right.
I actually work with several clients where a lot of my kid frames have the flatter frame design. So they're great for fitting those. And I was doing some research on it recently, and they were saying the kids should be wearing them about 8 to 10 hours a day, and that over a 2-year period, they seen 70%
Wow.
of them that it's helped. So to
Wow.
me, that's a huge number for that lens to be helping them with their myopia and not changing. So
And to tip of the hat for the diagnosis there too.
yeah, yeah,
For people seeing stuff, because I've seen little tests come through. Oh, what should the doc do here? And I'm like, oh, I'm not sure. And yeah, here, tip of the hat to the docs for seeing something early,
yeah,
or being able to see, here's this condition, this condition, this condition. You're this one. He's more predisposed than this here, and take the action here. Which some of it involves Stealth Lens, some of it involves, like we know, other products, everything from contact lenses to drops. And I just think it's awesome that there is a sophisticated approach that is finally hitting the ground
yeah,
versus us, looking back and just not knowing why.
yeah.
You know,
Things just keep
'cause-
changing, and it's hard to keep up with all the changes.
well, that is true.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that which takes me to some of the people that are like, I don't want to learn about this. Okay, well, and the reality is it's probably not in their wheelhouse. If somebody is in their 70s or 80s, they're probably making glasses for in that market, probably 60s, 70s, 80s. Not definitely or always, but more than likely. But like you said, that becomes critical. That engagement, how that transpires, what's prescribed, what's not, how the stacking goes with it, and how it's treated. There's other things happening on the ground with optometrists that need to have tip of the hat to them because they're doing it the right way
yeah.
on the ground, and they have better tools, so that
Mm-hmm.
helps in my mind. Before we wrap this up, let's talk briefly about a position that you're running for and the experiences that you've had on the board there in Oregon.
Yeah, here in Oregon, I took over the treasury position about 3 years ago and the convention chair. And the convention, I enjoy so much helping to plan those.
Right.
We have actually increased, doubled our vendors that we have show up. We
That's
went
awesome.
from 1 track to 3 tracks. I have my education person, which is Julie Ryan. She's a dear.
Mm-hmm.
She is great with trying to get the speakers set up for us. And we actually, this last year, 2 days before the convention, we had one speaker reach out and say he wasn't attending. And her and I were frantic trying to fill
Mm.
2 credit hours, having to redo our registration, and everybody had already signed up for classes. So, and then when we called one other speaker, that person had to change times. So our whole agenda had changed the day before.
Good.
So,
Ooh.
yes, it was, we were pulling our hair out. but we made it. And actually, want to give kudos to another person on the board, that Jesslyn. She is our person who helped
Right.
do our registration and helped do the flyers. She, at the last minute, was able to change all the classes, print out everybody a little tag of what classes and what rooms they would be in, because what they signed up for and what they had in their hand when they came the day of was totally different.
Right.
So we all worked really well to make that convention go really well. And it was actually in Sun River this year. And the vendors as well as the attendees had a great time. They actually want to go back there, but it's a very expensive venue, so it will probably be a while before we go there again. But I'm running for the position seat of membership at UOA, and I think
Okay.
with all the skills I have and just my drive to help increase membership, help creeps, awareness about education, awareness to the opticians that there even is a UOA, which a lot of the opticians don't even know there is a UOA. Just like when I go out to accounts and I talk about opticians, our convention coming up, people are like, I didn't know you had
Right.
a convention. I didn't know you even had an association. So bringing awareness to all of that. And that's where I want to thank you for this podcast, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to listen to this and go, oh, there is a UOA. Oh, there is an optician convention, or there is an optician association, which a lot of people don't even realize that there are associations in the different states. And that's where I want to give a big hand to Donna Hatch. She is out there
Absolutely.
working vigorously trying to make sure these states have associations, and that their associations are growing and becoming places where there's opticians within the state can go to, if they're looking for a job, if they're looking for better education. There's more than just, also just meeting and getting a new friend, getting somebody who's maybe going to teach you how to do something you don't know how to do. So state associations are very important. And that's where I'm excited with the United Opticians, that they're coming out trying to help us get licensed. And I want to be on the board to try to help educate the opticians to those type of skills and why they should be involved.
Well, and a fresh approach that I've seen in Pennsylvania with the Opticians Association of Pennsylvania. I was part of it in 23 and 24, and I had stepped away, and I'm back involved now, and I really appreciate the idea that they are more than willing to reach into the lane of the opticians that like those that you mentioned wouldn't even know that we exist, because they work at Vision Works, because they work at Lens Crafters or in a Target. You know, they ought to know if they're ABOC and they want to keep their certification up. We all need to be in tune, and all opticians need to be coming together for education, talking about and coming together in the right way. At the end of the day, people coming together is huge, and that is the big, big tip of the hat for the UOA. I
Yeah.
believe that that's a big mantra they're standing on, and to see people like yourself, 50-year veteran, and you're willing to get involved and you want to get involved at a national level, it speaks very highly of what we're doing, speaks very highly of you, speaks very highly of your willingness to give of your time and energy, because you've seen it work recently in Oregon. You know you can put it to work, with the UOA. So that's a win-win. Did you have any last thoughts that you wanted to
No,
share?
again, I just wanted to thank you for your time and letting me be able to talk a little bit about myself and, what my goals are for the future for the opticians. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Sheri. It's been a great time talking to you. And again, we know that the future is going to be revolving around education, how that gets built and structured with what we do state to state. Hopefully PA can begin to carve something that begins to go state to state to state.
Yeah.
And if we can be a part of that and have the discussions here, talk about the new technology, what's a good profit center, how to run a profitable business, and to give independent opticianry, because this is a challenging time. So, well, without any further ado, thank you so much for visiting us again. My name is Peter Precht, and we'll see you on the next episode.